Welcome back to our news bulletin. Pakistan's planning minister Asad Umar says the country has slowed down the spread of coronavirus because citizens are following social distancing guidelines. But he warned the situation is still tense and could worsen in the coming weeks. Speaking in Islamabad, Umar said the country has increased its coronavirus testing capacity and will continue to do so. He said the government is also increasing the capacity of ventilators at hospitals. The minister went on to say the doctors and paramedics need to be protected as there are no weekends or holidays for them. Umar said security forces should also be paid tribute besides the medical workers in this time of crisis. There are over 2,800 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Pakistan with 45 deaths and 170 recoveries. The global COVID-19 death toll has now reached 65,700, while over 1.2 million people have been infected. The number of cases and death toll continues to surge in European countries as they struggle to contain the disease. Details in this report. The coronavirus death toll in Iran has reached 3,603 after 150 people died over the past 24 hours. The US confirmed 1,340 new deaths from coronavirus, bringing the death toll to 8,503. President Donald Trump has warned the US is entering what could be its toughest week yet, as the number of cases surged past 300,000. The rate of deaths in Spain slowed for a third straight day as the European nation reported 674 fatalities compared to 809 a day earlier. The health ministry said the number brought total deaths to 12,418 with 130,759 infections. UK's health ministry said the death toll from the virus rose by 621 to 4,934. China's National Health Commission says it recorded 30 new coronavirus cases in the mainland. US President Donald Trump has warned the country could be headed into its toughest weeks yet as the COVID-19 death toll continues to mount in the country. Trump warned a lot of people will lose their lives in the next couple of weeks. The state of New York has reported a record 630 COVID-19 related casualties in the past 24 hours, taking the country's death toll to over 8,400. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo praised China for facilitating a shipment of 1,000 ventilators. Meanwhile, the COVID-stricken cruise ship Coral Princess, which is carrying 2 dead passengers and 12 infected people, docked in Florida. During his daily briefing, Trump announced a 2,500-bed military-staffed field hospital at New York's CF's Convention Center.
This will be probably the toughest week between this week and next week, and there'll be a lot of death, unfortunately, but a lot less death than if this wasn't done, but there will be death. We're looking for an obvious focus in the hardest hit regions. Some of them are obvious and some aren't so obvious. They spring up.
Pakistan has rejected India's response to Prime Minister Imran Khan's condemnation of a new domicile rule for occupied Kashmir. In a statement, the Foreign Office said occupied Kashmir is a globally recognized disputed territory and no law can be enforced without the consent of Kashmiri people. The Foreign Office said India cannot deny Kashmir's right to self-determination by using force. The new domicile law grants permanent residence to those residing in Jammu and Kashmir for at least 15 years. Meanwhile, Indian forces have martyred 9 Kashmiris in the last 24 hours in yet another act of state terrorism. Indian forces have martyred 87 people, including 3 women, during the ongoing 8-month-long siege of the valley. India has threatened doctors in occupied Kashmir with strict action for breaking the silence around inadequate medical facilities in the valley amid the COVID-19 outbreak. The 243-day-long clampdown has created a communication and health crisis in the valley, creating the ideal environment for an outbreak. In a notification, Delhi barred the doctors from speaking against the government in the press and social media. It said some of the government servants are criticizing New Delhi's efforts against the pandemic, which is against service conduct rules. The notification threatened violators with 6-month jail terms. Earlier, medics said the valley isn't equipped to tackle the deadly virus because of India's curfew and communications blackout. Moving on, in Afghanistan, the Taliban have accused the United States and its Afghan allies of violating the Doha peace deal. In a statement, they connected the violation of the deal to the delay in the release of 5,000 prisoners. The group said the US and Afghan forces are attacking Taliban targets even in non-combat areas. The Taliban said they have reduced attacks in cities, but civilian areas are being targeted by US and Afghan forces. The Taliban called on the US to abide by the agreement and ask its allies to implement the accord. Responding to the statement, the US forces spokesman in Afghanistan tweeted that the Taliban must reduce violence. Under the deal, the Afghan government is required to free 5,000 Taliban prisoners in exchange for 1,000 soldiers. The two sides met earlier this week in Kabul to discuss the prisoner swap, but the process could not be initiated yet. US Envoy for South Asia Alice Wells says an inclusive government in Afghanistan is a must for international aid. Earlier, Washington threatened to completely dry out aid to Kabul after cutting $1 billion due to the political deadlock between President Ashraf Ghani and rival Abdullah. In a tweet, Wells said international aid requires partnership with an inclusive government in Kabul. She urged the international community to hold Afghan leaders accountable to agree on a governing arrangement. Meanwhile, leaders including former President Hamid Karzai have asked Ghani Abdullah to end their feud. The politicians asked Ghani to stop government appointments to reach to an understanding with the former chief executive. They also asked Abdullah to extend his deadline for reaching an agreement with the president. Turkish security forces say they have killed 7 PKK militants in northern Syria. In a statement, the defense ministry said 2 militants were targeted when they opened fire in the Operation Euphrates Shield area. It said 5 others were neutralized when they were attempting to infiltrate the Operation Peace Spring Zone. Turkish authorities often use the word neutralized to imply the terrorists in question surrendered or were killed or captured. Ankara holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year conflict. The Yemeni government says Houthi rebels have attacked an oil pipeline pumping station in Marib province. Saudi state-run media reported pipeline is operated by the Safer Oil Company owned by the Yemeni government. Yemen's oil ministry said the attack shows criminal and catastrophic intent of Houthi rebels. The ministry said such incidents prove rebels want to destroy all economic gains of people of Yemen. It said these attacks will hinder foreign investment and return of international oil companies to the country. The ministry urged the international community to help the Yemeni government in securing oil and gas facilities. At a time when almost all countries are releasing prisoners over fears of COVID-19 outbreak in jails, a Rajasthan High Court in India has refused to release Anti-Citizenship Act protesters. Police arrested the protesters who are currently being held in the Baran district jail last month. In its verdict, the High Court said releasing accused and convicted prisoners does not fall under the extremely urgent matter category. It said the release of accused persons threatens law and order during the nationwide lockdown as well as the lives of Indian citizens. It also said the court is on holiday because of the COVID-19 outbreak. Hence, all applications for bail and suspension of sentences are not being taken up. The Indian government faced months-long demonstrations against the controversial law, killing 83 people across the country. We have a lot more coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Iran's health ministry has warned that capital Tehran may face coronavirus resurgence after many residents flouted advisories to stay home. People in Tehran crowded streets, causing traffic jams across the city as the country's New Year holidays ended yesterday. The ministry said government is concerned about the virus due to level of traffic and queues of cars stuck on freeways. It said these people can take the virus to their homes or workplaces, causing a resurgence in cases in the area. The ministry said even a medium level of virus can spread to nearby cities with a high level of job-related traffic from the capital. Iran, among worst hit countries by the epidemic, has recorded over 3,400 deaths and more than 55,000 infections so far. Health authorities in several Middle Eastern countries have confirmed new cases of COVID-19 infection and related deaths. Countries are implementing tighter rules on international and domestic travel to strengthen efforts to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Kuwait has announced 77 new coronavirus cases, bringing total to 556. Yesterday, the Gulf country confirmed its first death. Lebanon has confirmed 7 new cases, increasing the total to 527. Palestine recorded 9 cases, taking the total to 226. Morocco registered 41 new cases, with the total reaching 960. Oman recorded 21 new cases, bringing the total to 298. In Israel, coronavirus has killed 46 people, with more than 8,000 cases registered so far. Turkey has confirmed that 76 more people died from the coronavirus in the country over the past 24 hours, bringing the death toll to 501. The health minister said the total number of cases surged to over 23,900 as 3,013 more people tested positive. He said so far a total of 786 patients have recovered and been discharged from hospitals. The minister said nearly 1,300 are currently under intensive care units. Yesterday, Turkey imposed a partial curfew for citizens under the age of 20 as part of measures against the coronavirus outbreak. Ankara also decided to shut down borders of 31 cities for vehicles, excluding essential supplies. Chinese officials say Beijing has sold nearly 4 billion masks to foreign countries since March. Despite Chinese cases dwindling, Beijing has encouraged factories to increase the production of medical supplies. The coronavirus pandemic has killed over 60,000 people worldwide, and parts of the globe are facing a protective equipment shortage. Customs officials say China has exported 3.86 billion masks and 2.84 million testing kits to more than 50 countries. Officials said the country's medical supply exports were valued at $1.4 billion. However, numerous nations, including the Netherlands and Turkey, have complained about substandard products shipped from China. China says it will not restrict the export of medical supplies amid the global outbreak. Pope Francis has urged people living through the coronavirus pandemic to work on easing the suffering of others. The pontiff marked a surreal Palm Sunday in an empty St. Peter's Basilica. In his sermon, Francis urged his listeners to turn to God in the face of the many false securities that have now crumbled. He said the pandemic could help transform fear into service. All of the Pope's Holy Week services, which normally draw tens of thousands of pilgrims, will take place in the empty basilica. Pope Francis also urged to learn from the values of sport.
Tomorrow, April 6, the World Sports Day for Peace and Development, called by the United Nations, will occur. In this period, many events are suspended, but the best fruits of sports come out. Endurance, team spirit, brotherhood, giving the best of yourself. So let's relaunch the sport for peace and development.
In Australia, a criminal investigation has been initiated into how cruise ship passengers were allowed to disembark in Sydney. The issue came to the fore as some of the passengers exhibited flu-like symptoms, after which 10 of them died. Over 600 people on board the Ruby Princess cruise tested positive for coronavirus. The ship remains off the coast with nearly 200 sick crew members on board. At a briefing, New South Wales Police Commissioner said they would look into the breach of national biosecurity laws. He said the law only allows those vessels to dock if the captain gives assurance that the ship was free from any contagious disease. Australia has so far reported 5,548 coronavirus cases and 30 deaths. Malaysian Coast Guards have intercepted a boat ferrying a group of over 200 people believed to be ethnic Rohingya. In a statement, a Malaysian maritime agency said the boat was found adrift around 1 nautical mile off Langkawi Island. The group also included women and children who have been detained at the Coast Guard's Kedah state headquarters. The agency said the group will be handed over to immigration authorities for trying to enter the country illegally. It said it would also investigate their complaints about 3 alleged members of a migrant smuggling syndicate who fled the boat. In February, 15 Rohingya refugees died when a vessel carrying nearly 130 people capsized in the Bay of Bengal while trying to reach Malaysia. In France, police have started a terrorism probe after 2 people were killed and 5 wounded in a knife attack in the southeastern part of the country. The attacker entered a shop in the French town of Romans-Orly, killing 2 people and injuring many others before being arrested. Prosecutors said the initial probe suggests the attacker had a determined murderous course aimed at disturbing public order. They said they had launched an investigation into murder linked to a terrorist enterprise. Police said they arrested 2 other people in connection with the attack. France is currently in lockdown due to the coronavirus, and people are only allowed to come outside to buy basic necessities. In another news, Somalia says its army has killed 4 alshabaab militants and wounded dozens during an operation in the central region of Tehran. An army commander said the infantry forces rescued passengers in 3 civilian trucks held by the militants. He said that the operation was aimed at ensuring the safety of the highway linking the towns in central Somalia. The commander said that the fight against militants will be intensified. Despite recent operations by Somali forces, al-Shabaab militants still hold swathes of rural areas. 19 people are killed in a gang battle in Mexico's northern Chihuahua state. Police said the bloodshed occurred when hitmen of the Gente Nueva gang were ambushed in Madera town by rival Juarez cartel. Attorney General's office said it is coordinating with the Public Safety Office and Army to launch an operation to locate these groups. It said both rival cartels remain at odds over drug trafficking routes to the U.S. Police recovered 18 long firearms, 2 vehicles, and 2 grenades from the crime scene. Mexico has seen higher levels of gang violence tied to drug trafficking, with over 2,500 homicides reported across the country in March alone. In Italy, robots have replaced doctors and nurses in the hospital for some duties in the fight against COVID-19. Let's find out more in this report.
Help has arrived at Italy's hospital in the form of robots to deal with the enormous number of patients in the hardest hit area of coronavirus outbreak. The robots enter rooms where coronavirus patients are being treated and relay back vital information taken from machines reading statistics. Medical staff say the robots allow patients to be more closely monitored. The child-sized machines with large blinking eyes work in some of the most infectious wards.
Using my abilities, medical staff can be in touch with the patients without direct contact.
Doctors say the robots have brought amusement to the younger patients in this moment of severe distress. The robots can check heart and respiratory rates besides performing other key tasks. The tireless assistants immune to getting infected are helping out frontline doctors, nurses, and medical staff.
Robots are tireless assistants that can't get infected, that can't get ill. Doctors and nurses have been hit hard by this virus. The fact that the robot can't get infected is a great achievement.
Italy is the second worst hit country by the pandemic, with over 15,300 deaths so far.
In China's Wuhan, at least 30 markets have fully resumed their trading operation in an international commodity trading center. The Hubei province has been hit the hardest during the COVID-19 outbreak in the country. The Hankou North International Trading Center in Hubei was closed on January 20th for Spring Festival holiday. It was scheduled to reopen on February 1st, but was kept closed due to the coronavirus outbreak. After over 2 months of silence, the center has returned to a place bustling with business activities just like before its closure. Estonia's small island of Kyne in the Baltic Sea is a unique centuries-old society where women do most of the jobs on land while the men are away at sea. But the region's ancient matriarchal culture is in danger of vanishing as islanders are moving away due to falling fish stocks and economic hardship. Let's find out more about them in this report.
Keeping the lighthouse on the Estonian island of Kyne is one of the many jobs that for centuries has been done by women, along with leading church services, working the land, and even dressing up as Santa at Christmas.
Last 10 years, the population number has decreased so quickly after the final economical crisis, which was 2008.
Marge and her husband Margus both fish for a living, but they sustain themselves by growing and rearing their own food. The weekly coffee morning is a chance for Kyne elders to swap news, gossip and memories. Lighthouse keeper Eli Karjam says she's optimistic about the community's future, pointing to infrastructure improvements made with EU money.
The harbour and airport are in order. Now they're fixing the sewage system. There's an internet connection and rescue services. Things can only get better.
Virve Köster is one of Estonia's foremost folk singers and Kyne's most famous daughter. Virve says she and the other islanders have lived through hard times before, and that gives her hope, making her songs more joyful every day.
We're taking a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In our top business story, OPEC and Russia have postponed a meeting due to Monday to discuss cuts in oil output until 9th April. Riyadh and Moscow once again traded barbs over who deserved the blame for collapsing oil prices. The delay came amid pressure from US President Donald Trump for OPEC and its allies to urgently stabilize global oil markets. Previously, Trump had showed optimism that the two sides will reach a deal on a cut in production. The global lockdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the ensuing friction between Moscow and Riyadh have destabilized the oil market in recent weeks. Oil prices hit an 18-year low on March 30th due to a slump in demand. The European Commission has approved a series of multi-billion euro state support packages for Greece, Poland and Portugal. The packages will help mitigate the economic impact of the coronavirus through grants and loan guarantees. In a statement, the Commission approved a 13 billion euro state aid plan for Portugal, 22 million euros for Poland, and 2 billion euros for Greece. Commission Vice President Marguerite Vestager said this guarantee scheme will help Polish businesses affected by COVID-19. Vestager said the 13 billion euros would enable Portugal to provide direct grants and public guarantees on loans. The Commission relaxed its rules last month to allow EU governments to support businesses and banks as virus spread. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.